Hello, this is Mark from My Keys to Music. Thanks for joining me on this video. Today we're talking about GarageBand and its ability to record multiple tracks at the same time. And not just two tracks, but two special tracks. One is a MIDI track, one is an audio track. Both of those tracks will be coming from the Nord Stage 3 keyboard today, both the audio and the MIDI. And right now I've got the Nord keyboard connected via the USB port directly into the computer. Then I have the audio, the left and right audio, connected to the Focusrite audio interface. And they are going into channel 5 and 6 on that interface, and then the interface is connected via USB directly to the computer. So the computer is receiving inputs from both the Nord separately and the Focusrite separately, one to capture the MIDI and one to capture the audio. And that's how this is set up right now. Now, where did this idea come from? It actually came from a comment that came in on the channel, and this is a person who asked, I have a Nord Stage 2, you have a Nord Stage 3. Is there a way to simultaneously record MIDI and audio? As well as I have a Yamaha P95, which is an 88-key Yamaha with an amazing performance capability in terms of it's got 88 keys, it's weighted, it's probably the best way to perform something like this. Can I drive the Nord Stage 3 so that I hear the Nord Stage 3, but at the same time, can the MIDI come from the P95 into GarageBand at the same time? How do I do that? And that's a little bit more elaborate. We're going to learn how to do that. So let's take this one by one here, and we will take a look at doing this first with the GarageBand setup. Okay, so here's GarageBand, and I've got a brand new file, an empty project, and I will click empty project and get this going. Now the first thing GarageBand will ask is create a track. So I'll do that. Software instrument right now, and I'll create a basic MIDI track. Nothing fancy about that. Pretty much GarageBand 101 here. Okay, and because I told you that the Nord is connected to the computer, if I play the Nord keyboard, I should be able to hear the classic electric piano up here because this is a virtual instrument driven by MIDI. Okay, and that's the Stage 3 playing and driving the MIDI here. No big deal there, really. Let's now go to the second track, which I want to make an audio track, and I'm using the microphone option for that. And my input is 5 and 6, a stereo input indicated by the circles with the overlap. 5 and 6 from the Focusrite. There we go. I'm going to turn off input monitoring. I don't need that for this track. And if I have this track selected, now I should hear the actual sounds from the Nord Stage 3, the audio sounds, the analog audio sounds. Piano and strings. Certainly not electric piano, but piano and strings, which indicate that's coming from the Nord. Okay, now how do I get to record these at the same time? That's where the real magic starts to happen. So multi-track recording has been available in GarageBand, I think, since the beginning. They used to expose the button in the early versions so that you could easily see it. Now they hide it behind this thing called track, configure track header. Once you do that, you can turn on record enable. Then you have a new box with a red circle in it. This allows you to select multiple tracks for recording. So all you need to do is make sure that you have the MIDI track selected. That's the one I've left clicking with my cursor, while the other track or tracks are blinking. So now I've got the audio and the MIDI queued up for recording. Let's test it. Make sure my Nord is on, the volume is on. I'm going to hit R on the keyboard and make sure that we've got a little count in here, and I'm going to do a quick recording. All right, and just like that, I've got a MIDI track with an audio track. Now the audio track has kind of low output because my volume was only about halfway, but you can see there's definitely an audio track happening. In fact, if I rewind this and just solo this track, I should hear something. Yeah, that's the Nord. Perfect, okay. So I've got that. Now let me delete these two and we'll prepare that for a little bit later. Now let's talk about the other part of the equation, which is how do I take an external keyboard and drive MIDI into the Nord Stage 3, then have that go through into GarageBand? How do I set that up? So I have over here, let's take a look. Yes, there it is. I have the Korg Minilogue XD there pictured. And let me go over there and join you there. So with the Korg, I don't have any audio coming out here, just to prove that you're not going to hear anything from the Korg today, as much as I'd love to play you the Korg right now because it sounds awesome. But I do have a MIDI out, a traditional 5-pin DIN MIDI out coming out of the Korg here, and that's going into the MIDI in on the stage 3. So let me hop on over to the stage 3 here real quick. There we go. Let me grab a chair. Okay, now we're at the stage 3. And let's set this up and figure out how we're going to configure the MIDI for this. It's actually quite simple. I'm just going to hold the shift button and push MIDI and make sure that my channel is correlated with the channel on the Korg. In other words, I've got the Korg set to channel 1 and I have the channel 1 global here on the stage 3 also set so that it can understand and receive signal from the actual Korg. And in fact, if I play the Korg right now and I have the stage 3 on, you'll just have to take my word for it that I'm not playing this any other way other than the Korg. So the Korg is now powering the stage 3. Now that by itself is not exactly spectacular. This is MIDI 101 from the 80s. Just MIDI out to MIDI in. There's nothing fancy about that. Now where it gets a little bit more fancy and perhaps even more interesting is the fact that we have this option here, which is called Extern. Now the Extern is special on the Nord Stage 3, whereby it allows this notion of global or soft global or global soft MIDI through. And MIDI through is something that used to be very commonplace for keyboards back in the day. You'd have a MIDI in, a MIDI out, and a MIDI through. And that through would allow you to have, let's say, a keyboard on the top connected to a keyboard in the middle. The keyboard in the middle would take the MIDI through into the keyboard of the third keyboard, MIDI in. And you'd have this giant stack of keyboards, one keyboard to rule them all. And it was so simple to set up. They've done away with all that. Manufacturers don't put throughs anymore on keyboards, but in this case they have a soft through option whereby it uses the out of the stage 3 and then transfers that MIDI to whatever the out is connected to in the chain. All right, so as long as I put the Extern on like it is here, I should be able to now hear GarageBand. Rewind the tape. That's funny. Rewind the tape. Tell you how many times I had to say that back in the recording days, right? So we have this setup again for multi-track recording, and just note that it doesn't always keep enabled in multi-track recording. It tends to, when you delete tracks or what have you, move things around, you have to work to keep it in multi-track recording mode. Select the MIDI channel, hit the record key, and I'm going to lower the camera a little bit so you can see the Korg in the background, and we'll do this together. Whoops, and I just need one more thing here, and that is the metronome, so I can hear where we might need to begin. Although it doesn't really matter too much. Here's the Korg. So what did we learn here today? We learned how to connect the stage 3 audio and MIDI simultaneously into GarageBand on a multi-track recording, powered from a third-party keyboard using the MIDI soft through option on the Extern option on the stage 3. Wow, that's a lot for one video, but you can take that to the bank with you because that's the kind of capability you have these days. This is just one of maybe a million different setups you can do when you incorporate MIDI and all these audio interfaces and all these things coming together. It can get very crazy very quickly. But at the end of the day, figure out what works best for you and set up your system the way you need it to be set up. I may not be able to help answer a lot of the questions if they come through as a result of this video. Thanks for being a student of My Keys to Music. If you are already a student at www.mykeystomusic.com, learning the Nord Stage 3, the Electro 5, the Electro 6, the upcoming Wave 2, and maybe even the Nord Lead A1 at some point. But definitely the Wave 2, that's on its way. I hope to get it soon. What else is going on? Oh yes, thanks for being a Patreon patron. I haven't said thank you for you guys in quite a while, but I do thank you for that. It's much appreciated. Feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. We'll be coming up with some more videos, hopefully a little bit more frequently. I'm trying a new technique here. I'm trying to do these videos in a single take. That way I don't have to spend 15 hours editing them. I'll just get it right the first time, and we'll just buzz on right through and be able to create more. That's the hope anyway. It sounds ambitious, probably sounds crazy is what it is, but we got to try where we can. Thanks for joining me on this video. We'll check you out on the next one. No, you'll check me out on the next one, and I'll help you as I can through comments and things like that Currently, the channel is still small enough where I can answer almost every comment, but I know a lot of you have put in requests for discovery videos that I haven't been able to really get to. Some of those requests are pretty hard and they take a lot of hours to put together. So I'm trying to get some help out there in the field for people to make sounds for me. Then maybe once the sound is made, I can put it in a discovery video. That saves me a lot of time from having to make the sounds and figure out the whole formula from scratch. On some of these songs are pretty complicated. So if I can take something that already exists and use it, fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you later.